Welcome back to the channel. In this video, we are playing SCARLET NEXUS, but I want to talk to you about video game bosses, and I don't know if SCARLET NEXUS is going to continue being as much fun as I've had within the first 5 hours or so of gameplay. I have 7 hours roughly of game time on my account, but a couple of hours I've been AFK doing other things. But within the 5 hours, I've not seen too much repetitive, the game's running smooth, I've not come across bugs. I've had a lot of fun with it. The loading screens when you get them are short. The combat itself is pretty cool. The enemies are very unique. And yeah, it's an anime game, so the genre is completely different to what I typically play, but it still has the concept of a in-game boss. And that's what I wanted to make this topic about, because there are so many games we play day in, day out that have bosses. You even nowadays in Call of Duty Black Ops Zombies, you have giant bosses. In one of the maps for Cold War, you have a boss called Order that will come in every, I don't even know how many rounds, but every so often you'll see this boss called Order. It's like a gigantic tree. And in my opinion, when you see in-game bosses, you want them to stand out and be memorable. And you want them to give you a wide range of emotions when you are fighting them. Because we play games for fun, they're a source of entertainment. But most of the games that have released in 2021 have been an absolute joke. You've had Outriders, which has been a buggy mess since it launched back in April. You've had Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance, which gives an entirely new definition to the term brain-dead AI. There has been lots of other games that have come out in the first half of 2021 that have been dreadful to play. I've covered some of them on the channel, but you even have things like Marvel's Avengers. They did an update for the game and everyone on PlayStation 5 had their private IP address leaked and shown on the screen. That private information was made public through an update. So there's just constantly, even if the game's been out for a little while or it's a new release, there is bug after bug after bug. I haven't come across any bugs at all whilst playing SCARLET NEXUS. That's one of the big reasons I talk positive about the game, because even though I didn't purchase it, if I did purchase it, the ultimate goal is for me to have fun. If I've got frame drops, if there are crashes, if there are bugs that block progression, anything like that, even small visual bugs, they take away from the fun factor of the game. But when it comes to in-game mechanics, features, enemies, all that sort of stuff, you want to see these emotions. You want to go into an arena to fight a boss and be like, oh my god, this is insane. Wow, this is really tough. Oh my god, I'm so happy I bought this game. You want all these different emotions. And even though one of the emotions from SCARLET NEXUS and this specific boss that you're seeing in the gameplay, one of my emotions and how I was feeling was, I'm freaked out. This boss is creepy, the way it's been designed, but it makes it feel unique. I had the challenge of taking the boss down because it was quite a tough boss fight. I used most of my health regen, I'm going to say potions, they're known as jellies. I had to figure out a strategy to take this boss down. So you've got the concentration, building up your strategy. You've got the excitement of taking down a big boss in an arena in the game. You've got the freaked out because of the design of the boss. There are several emotions that come into play. You see this stuff in other games. You go to Anthem, you've got the very first stronghold the players started doing, the Tyrant Mine. You've got the giant spider that comes down from the hole in the roof or the sort of thing, on the ceiling of the cave. And then you play Outriders and you've got this gigantic chrysaloid that's got its own arena. You've got a spider that's climbed all the way up to a mountain and taking you to the peak where there's a volcano. And it has its own arena. And that stuff is really, really cool. You get engaged and immersed into these sorts of worlds around you and the bosses. And it gives you an action sort of packed adventure that's worth playing, that's memorable, and that is fun. But then a lot of games drop off. And when I say that, I mean Anthem, one of the Stronghold's bosses was from the story. You look at Outriders, and out of the 15 expeditions in the endgame, I think probably 2 or 3 bosses are actually unique. And they're most, the furthest part of the endgame, so the end of the endgame, just simply has the end of the story boss renamed, reskinned, and a couple of abilities changed. It's lazy development, and it gets irritating because imagine, for those of you that have played Outriders, I know there are a lot of you on the channel, imagine how much more fun some of the expeditions would have been if they didn't even necessarily have bigger bosses, but they had unique bosses that sometimes even had their own mechanics behind them. That's what really gets me when I play some of these games. Some of the bosses are just copy-paste because it's the easy route to take, and it takes away from the overall experience of the game. And some of these games that are doing this are charging £60. Now, as I said, I can't tell you if SCARLET NEXUS is going to just rinse and repeat and use the same character models for some of the bosses further in the game. But from the first portion of playing this game, it's got me thinking and wanting to cover the topic of just why some video game bosses absolutely suck. You'll have bosses in Dungeons & Dragons Dark Alliance that are big, beefy sort of characters and they look really good, but they're just standing there basically daydreaming, looking at absolutely nothing. Then you get bosses in Outriders. Some of them have fallen under the map, some of them have visual bugs to like their health bars and stuff. There's just problems with them. Some of them, if not most of them, are just reskins or just like the exact same boss pretty much. If you take a couple of the expeditions, like you play Chemplant and then you also play Scorched Lands, the main boss that you get the cutscene for is exactly the same, it's just got a different name. So it's not even been recolored, reskinned or anything like that. It's exactly the same boss, they've just changed the name, and that is supposedly acceptable in a video game. I think developers all round should start paying more attention to the bosses. Not just the bosses, obviously the core mechanics, the gameplay cycle, because at the end of the day, whether your game is free or you're paying like £60 to buy this game, or like developers are charging £60 for players to buy the game, and even as a base standard edition, I feel games need more effort. Because if you take games from the 1990s, the early 2000s, you would have all of this stuff that I don't know what it is. There's something that, like, I don't know if it's gamers that have become more demanding. I don't know if it's like development and everyone, like every company out there just wanting profits. Like, I don't know if it's a lack of passion from development teams. I don't know exactly what it is. I can't pinpoint it. But there's just something that's changed that takes that away. And even me as a player, I used to come home from school as a kid, I'd load up a game, I'd be able to sit and play that same game for days and days and days. Every day when I got home from school, I'd load up GTA San Andreas, I would like get my piece of paper, my cheat sheet basically, I would pop in my cheats and I'd be jumping 180 foot in the air on my BMX. I'd be doing crazy things like that, and there was stuff in the games back then that would keep you playing over and over again. I don't necessarily think it's the age of the player. I don't think it's like, because obviously now I'm an adult, there's a lot more behind it. I don't just play games for the sake of playing them. I play them to create videos for, and I've got my own children, so I play them to interact with my family and stuff as well. There's a lot of different things and a lot more things than just simply going to school one day, coming home and just loading up a game and chilling until it's dinner time. But I don't think it's like age has anything to do with it. I think the biggest like case of this going wrong is the lack of passion, the lack of creativity. It feels like some development teams have simply gone out and just picked anyone off the street and said, "Do you want a job? All you got to do is sit in an office. We'll teach you the most basic parts of coding. We'll teach you the most basic bits of designing a random character. Boom, you have a job." The people that work on these games are supposed to have like college and university qualifications to work within game development. Yet so many games come out and they are an absolute shambles. But that's why I wanted to do this video, and I wanted to mainly talk about the video game bosses. I know I've rambled a bit about a mixture of different things. But overall, it's all stemmed from me playing Scarlet Nexus and coming across this boss. This boss was designed like, it looks like a human doing like some crab walk thing, but this boss has 3 heads. It's a very weird looking boss, and it got me thinking, like, why can't we get bosses and cool things like this in other games? It doesn't have to be an anime game, doesn't have to be a looter shooter, but especially if you're making some game that doesn't focus on realism, like Outriders. It's all like fantasy sort of stuff, if you want to put it that way, like Destiny 2, that's all like fantasy. is nothing you would ever actually see in real life. So why can't more video game creators actually make cool, interesting things, not just within bosses, within everything in the game, that's going to basically catch the attention of the player, something that's going to be eye-catching. I just personally feel that we as gamers deserve way better than what we've received within the last few years. One of the biggest issues I personally think is this live service model. Whether games are using it or not, I feel games are trying to lean into that model. And even if they're not necessarily removing stuff from the launch of the game, they're not putting in as much effort for what they are releasing at launch. But let me know your thoughts and stuff about it in the comments. In my next video, I'll try not to just ramble about random stuff as much. But I thought it was an interesting topic, so let me know your thoughts below. I'll see you in the next video. I hope you guys enjoyed it.